I don't like crowds, so I came to one, just to see how it felt. The idea of being surrounded by people, loud noises, nowhere to escape, it just sounds awful. I'm not scared of people, it's more that everything gets overwhelming really fast. Too much noise, too many moving parts, and suddenly I'm tense. I can't think straight, and all I want to do is get out. I used to think I was just bad at handling this stuff. Everyone else seemed fine, but I wasn't really watching them. I was too busy trying to stay calm, because the noise inside me was already too loud. I'd find myself on the sidelines a lot. At parties, I'd sit near the wall instead of joining in. Everyone else would be dancing, laughing, moving in and out of conversations, and I'd just be there, watching, waiting for it to be over, wondering why I was even here in the first place. Even at my own wedding, I couldn't face the dance floor. I ended up sitting in a quieter room for most of the evening. I just felt overwhelmed, like I couldn't be in that much noise for too long. It wasn't that I didn't want to see people, but whenever I was around a lot of noise and energy, I'd just want to escape. I remember not long ago queuing up at Legoland for the Ninjago ride. I hadn't been there in over 20 years. So going back already had me in a bit of a weird headspace. My nephews were excited for the ride. It wasn't even that hot or noisy. The line wasn't even packed. But it just started to get to me. How tight the queue was. How it snaked around. How close everyone felt. Within a few minutes, my heart was racing. I felt like I couldn't get enough air. That familiar feeling had returned. The feeling that I had to escape. I turned to my at the time fiance and said, I have to get out. That feeling had hit me, my stomach dropped, I had racing thoughts, and I immediately hopped the barrier and walked out the line. Maybe it sounds a bit dramatic, but when it hits me like that, it's hard for me to think straight. It feels like an emergency. It usually starts when I notice how many people are around me. Suddenly everything gets louder. Every sound, the feeling of my hair on my head, my own heart, I feel it all at once. It's like my body just decides, you need to escape now. I remember being in a shopping mall in Florida. It wasn't even that busy. Maybe it was something about the lighting, the humidity, or just being in a different country. But I got hit with that familiar wave of panic. My thoughts told me that I might lose control of my own heart, that I might fall over from dizziness, so I had to get outside. I sat on some random chair just outside the mall, trying to force myself to breathe slowly. Sometimes all it takes is just one thought for me to start a spiral. I remember queuing up for a roller coaster called the Smiler at Alton Towers. This wasn't long after lockdown. I hadn't been around people in months. I looked around and all I could see was bodies, packed in tight. The queue snaked around with no room to leave even if I wanted to, and suddenly my mind went straight to, am I going to get sick? Am I going to get Rona? Why am I even here? And that was when overwhelm set in again. I used to feel embarrassed when this happened, like I should apologise for my mistakes, like I'd failed at something simple. It felt like I had failed to do what everyone else was doing without thinking. But to be honest, as soon as I get out, I can start to calm down. I'm still very on edge, but at least I'm not panicking anymore. We're not built for this constant stimulation, and when anxiety shows up, I don't think it's a weakness. I think it's a signal. I know not everyone feels this way. Some people can thrive in busy places, but if you don't, if you feel like I do, you're not the only one. In recent years, I've realised I don't have to force myself to stay somewhere just because I think that I'm supposed to be there. Nowadays, I always try to carry earplugs with me. I find dulling my senses allows me to take the edge off when things start to feel overwhelming. It's like it creates this tiny layer of distance, like I'm not fully there, but watching from a safer place. Whatever it does to my brain, it helps me function in those busy places. For a long time I worked as a videographer, and that included the occasional job to film conferences. There could be hundreds of people, loud stages, and always packed rooms. My mind would usually scream at me, telling me I was going to get sick, that I needed to leave. But with earplugs in, it was like I wasn't really there. There could be hundreds of eyes on me, watching me film the speaker on the stage, but it didn't affect me in the same way. It was like I was detached from myself. I wasn't panicking anymore, I was observing. Before I found things like earplugs, I had other ways of coping. things I didn't even realise were coping tactics at the time. I used to pinch my skin, hoping that the pain would mask my anxiety. I'd start doing it without thinking, like my body was trying to distract itself from the panic by giving me something else to focus on. It was like if I could just feel this instead, maybe I can block everything else out. And to be honest, I still do it to this day. Like when I'm at the dentist, I have no control when the drill is in my mouth, but I can pinch my skin. It's one of those things that I don't really talk about, but it's become part of how I handle overwhelm until I started finding better ways. More than anything, I've just stopped pretending. When I was younger, before I really understood what was happening, I used to mask these feelings with alcohol. I'd get drunk as fast as possible just to take the edge off before the anxiety kicked in. These days, I like to think I know a bit more about how I work. If I go somewhere and I'm not comfortable, I leave. Or I just don't go at all. There's no guilt or apology. I've already spent enough time trying to be someone that I'm not. You don't have to go just because your friends are going. You don't have to stay just because you queued up. And you definitely don't have to prove anything by pushing through an experience that feels wrong in your body. Not every situation has to be endured. And sometimes just knowing that you're allowed to leave, it's what lets you stay. I remember when I was meant to fly to America and my inflammatory bowel disease began flaring. I was terrified that I wouldn't cope, and my therapist said to me, "Go to the airport, and if it's too much, it's okay not to get on that plane." I never even made it to the airport. I ended up in hospital instead. But what she said has stuck with me since, because sometimes just knowing that you have a way out makes you feel strong enough to stay. I don't think that you're broken for needing an escape route. You're allowed to have that exit plan, and that doesn't mean that you're always going to take it. I wish someone had told me earlier that it's okay not to like crowds, because I don't, and I've stopped pretending otherwise. I've stopped forcing myself to be in these situations. This video is kind of a marker of progress for me. I came out here, into this busy street, and I'm not even wearing my earplugs. Not because I had to, just to prove to myself that I could, even if it still makes me feel uncomfortable. And maybe that's enough. If this sounds familiar, feeling overstimulated, panicked, or stuck in your own head, I also made a video about overthinking, about these loops that we get stuck in, and how I've been trying to break the cycle. So click here to watch that video now. Thanks for listening.